Hello everybody, this is TAG6's tag for today. Let's start our session. In this session, we have a quick look overview. Our schedule for today will be about flipped classroom method, how to motivate your students, and we'll play two games. First will be about tongue twisters. It's a very enjoyable game. You can practice with your students. And then we will learn about Aesop Fables. It's a very useful site in which you can give your students some kind of reader or some kind of fairy tales and to extract the morals out of these fables or tales. Finally, we will have our assessment for this session. It's a reflection and over what we will learn today. Let's start our first part. It's about flipped classroom. We have already spoken about it briefly in the previous session, but we didn't complete due to some technical issues and the internet was bad then. What's meant by flipped classroom? It's an approach to teaching and learning where classroom instructions and homework are switched or flipped. It's inversed. That means that the student takes the place of a teacher and the teacher takes the place of a student. The instruction is done at home by a short video. So the teacher is recording a video concerning the assignment or what they will learn tomorrow in the next class. The student studies this video perfectly and to do the assignment which the teacher asks him to do. The students can work individually or in groups to do the task needed by the teacher. And after that, they return back to the school and in the class, they start to explain what they have done to do this mission or task. So they take the place of the teacher. Here is the teacher is making a kind of facilitating the session, giving some instructions and correcting the wrong ideas or giving some rules concerning the class which he asked the student to make this flipped classroom about. Here is students come in class applying what they have learned. How does it work? In a traditional classroom, in our classroom, as we teach in a traditional way, a teacher would spend a lot of time on classroom instructions. They give the students some instruction concerning some new vocab or some new rules related to grammars and so on. For example, giving information about grammar structure or in introducing new vocabulary. Students have a little time practicing language in class. So here is, in this way, it's a teacher-centered approach. The teacher is the main source of knowledge. He gives his students all the knowledge they need, and he gives them little time to express themselves or using the language. He is the main source for the knowledge. But in a flipped classroom, when you converse or invert the rules of both the teacher and the student watch a video at home. You can give your students a YouTube ready-made video or give them a site to go and navigate through and take some information and apply on what they have learned about. For example, you can use a site as Voice of America. It's very important because it gives the students a chance to learn more about the language by a new way. Sometimes it gives the student new vocabulary related to the press and what is this expression or term mean in this situation, and you will gain a lot of information through it. Also, you can give your students some sites which they can practice speaking, for example, listening to other students speaking and to give them a kind of estimation of the mark of the proficiency of what they have already said in this video, so they can improve their speaking and listening by using these sites. The video which you give your students, give them some information which are needed about the language points. You are asking them to do some exercise about. In class, the teacher can check their understanding and answer any question. And answer any questions about this topic. The rest of the lesson, they spend practicing the language in pairs or groups, which is the teacher there to support them. As we said before, here the teacher is a kind of facilitator. He facilitates and helps the student to learn the new vocab or the new structure and gives them some hints about how to improve their performance. Why flip your classroom? Why should I do this kind of teaching method? Teachers who flipped their classroom said that it caused more effective learning and more learner-centered environment. Here is the student is the center of the learning process. He can use the language in a freely environment because he is dealing with the assessment or the homework in a free environment at home. He can be supported by his parents' experience, his elder brothers or sisters, and so on. He can use the internet sites to give him some help in dealing with this that can't be used in the class because of the shortage of time in our lessons. But at home, he can start whenever he wants to start his classroom or have the support from anybody he wants to have his support with this matter and so on. Teachers have more time to engage students in more tasks or more difficult tasks. This means that everyone is engaged. Even the low achieving students can participate in this kind of flipped classroom. You can give them some simple tasks to do. This will help them improve their performance in the language. Teachers have to make videos that present language or find ready-made, as we have already said. In class, the teacher becomes more of a facilitator, helps students practice the language rather than giving them information, as we said. Here's a kind of summarizing some main points or important points related to flipped classrooms. Teachers have more time assessing students' progress because you can see that the student at the first time couldn't, for example, use the rules given to him in a correct way, but as he gives his students more chances to modify or get help at home from other resources, he can improve himself, and you can touch the progress of your students by noticing that they became to use the language more efficiently. Teachers have more time assessing students, as we said, progress, which helps inform future lessons and learning. Mute yourself if you please. This is Mr. Ahmed Tamir, if you please. Thanks. Now let's move to the other slide. Today we are summarizing what we have already spoken about in the last session. So I am giving you a quick view about this topic. What is the impact of learning? What is the influence of learning by using this way? Homework becomes more meaningful because the students have to complete to become ready for practice stages in class. They have the opportunity to take control over their learning because they choose when they start and how to start who could they use to help them, and so on. They decide on when to watch a video, how to watch it, and how many times to watch it. This is very important because some students are shy that they couldn't ask you to repeat the information or rules that they couldn't understand at school. So if they started to learn at home, they can reuse it again, re-watch the video again and pause it to write down some notes and to replay it again and so on. This gives them the opportunity as they couldn't understand it from the first time, or they couldn't catch the idea of the video or what you are saying in this video or recording. So they are free to use it and replay it. This gives them a lot of confidence and makes them using repetition to understand what they missed in the first part and so on. So flip the classroom, learn the subject, learn how to learn, become more motivated. Now we'll have a short video about how is flip the classroom done, and we'll have two parts of it. I'll leave you watching this video and we will discuss it later. Let's see.
What is the flipped classroom? It's an approach to teaching and learning where classroom instruction and homework are switched or flipped. This means that the instruction is done at home via a short video. And students spend time in class applying what they've learned. How does it work? In a traditional classroom, the teacher spends a large part of the lesson on classroom instruction. For example, giving information about a grammar structure or introducing new vocabulary. Students have a little time for practice in class, but have to continue their practice at home via homework with no support from the teacher. In a flipped classroom, students watch a video at home, which gives them the information they need to know about the language point. In class, the teacher can check their understanding and answer any questions they might have. The rest of the lesson is spent on practicing the language in pairs or groups, with the teacher there to support them. Why flip your classroom? Teachers who flip their classrooms say that it results in more effective learning and a more student-centered environment. Students have someone to ask for help when they practice using the language. The teacher has more opportunity to support weaker students and challenge stronger students with more difficult tasks. What's the impact on teaching? The teacher has to make videos that present language or find them ready-made, such as those offered by the Gateway's second edition. In class, the teacher becomes more of a facilitator, helping students to practice using the language rather than giving information. The teacher has the opportunity to spend more time assessing student progress, which helps inform future lessons and learning. On learning. Homework becomes more meaningful because students have to complete it to be ready for the practice stages in class. And by putting classroom instruction. Students' hands, they have the opportunity to take control over their learning. They decide when to watch the video, how to watch it, how many times to watch it, and so on. Advocates of the flipped classroom say that students not only learn about the flipped classroom, I was really excited about its potential because I really wanted to give my students more control over their learning, and I also wanted to give them more practice of using language in the classroom. So I took the plunge and I made my first video on going to for future plans. I set my class video for homework. There were an A2 class of students, and I asked them to go home and watch the video and take notes and bring those notes to class the next day. The idea was to use that lesson practicing the language that they had seen in the video. Of course, you can imagine what happened when students came to the lesson. Half of them hadn't watched the video, and of the ones that had watched it, well, several of them hadn't really understood what it was all about and what they actually had to do with it. So rather than give them lots of practice time, what I had to do was present the language in the same way that I normally do. My first experiences of the flipped classroom hadn't been particularly successful, but I didn't want to give up, so I made another video. This time on third patterns, I introduced it differently to the classroom. Firstly, I made the learning objectives of the lesson really clear to students. Now, this is good practice anyway, but at that time it wasn't something I always did. But on this occasion, I told students that the idea was for them to be able to use going to talk about future plans. I also involved them in this as well. We talked about why that was important for them. The second thing I did was bring the video up on the screen in the class and freeze it and show them an image from the video. And the idea was to get them predicting what they thought it was about so that I could engage them in the video and make them want to go away and watch it. On this occasion, I didn't actually set it for homework, however. We watched it together. Now, I could have done it in the classroom, but we actually went to one of our computer rooms in the school. So students had their own computer, they watched the video at their own pace, but I was there to help them to take notes and support them. Once we'd done it together, they had a much better understanding of what they had to do, and were then better able to go and do it independently at home. Slowly but surely, our flipped lessons were working. We established a routine so students knew when they would need to go home and watch a video for homework. In class, I was able to give students more individual attention. I could error correct. I could give them vocabulary that they needed, and I could help them with pronunciation. I could support weaker students with language prompts and vocabulary, and I could challenge stronger students with extra tasks or by taking language prompts away. Of course, it wasn't perfect. Sometimes students came to class having not watched the video, and I'd have to ask them to go to the back of the class and watch the video on their mobile device while other students were practicing. Sometimes I'd ask the stronger students to peer teach the language to them instead. Flipped learning has a lot of potential. It can help learners to become more independent, and it allows you to have much more practice of language items in the classroom. It does take some getting used to, for teachers and students alike, but once routines are established, it can be very successful. There are many benefits to flipping the classroom, and it's definitely worth trying it with your students and persevering to see if they can gain from those benefits too.
All right, let's move to the next slide. Now, flipped classroom is not just online videos about replacing teachers with videos. An online class, it's not an online class because it doesn't work online. The students working without structure, no, you give your students a lot of structures to follow. The students working in isolation, no, because they can work in groups or pairs at home. Students spending the entire class online, no, they don't use this, but the flipped classroom is a means to increase teacher contact time An environment that increases student responsibility, blending of direct instructions and conduct-based learning. A class where all students are engaged, they are participating, all the students are participating in the class. A class where absent students won't fall behind because they can take the part as they are out of school. A class where all students are engaged in their learning.
Hello and welcome to Teachings and Education.
Now let's move to another part of our session today. It's how to motivate your students. Right, let's watch to this video about how to motivate your students and push them to participate in the class.
Hello and welcome to Teachings and Education.
Here is a module called ARCS. ARCS. Each letter is an abbreviation for something. It's A for attention, R for relevance, C for confidence, and S for satisfaction. Now let's see how you can use these four elements to motivate your students.
The ARCS model to motivate student learning. Hello and welcome to Teachings and Education. The ARCS model to motivate student learning. Credit given to John Keller. Build student motivation to learn and participate in your classroom. Some teachers can't get their students to learn because they just can't motivate them. The idea is that an increase in student motivation will lead to an increase in student productivity. What can you actually do to get your students motivated and keep them motivated? Well, teachers can get and sustain student motivation through these four upcoming elements brought to you by John Keller. Each box will house one of Keller's elements. First up is the A from ARCS, which stands for attention. And one way to get their attention is to use humor. There's nothing wrong with adding a laugh in every once in a while. Inquiry-based learning methods will inherently keep your students' attention. Present students with an interesting dilemma or problem to solve and watch them get excited. Use both visual.
So it is okay to start your lesson with a kind of joke or a kind of humor. It's okay, but it's not preferable to be used all the time.
Hello and welcome to Teachings and Education, the ARCS model to motivate student learning. Some teachers and student productivity get and sustain. Get their attention is to use humor. There's nothing wrong with adding a laugh in every once in a while. Inquiry-based learning methods will inherently keep your students' attention. Present students with an interesting dilemma or problem to solve and watch them get excited. Use both visual and auditory stimuli. You can find some great infographics and visually intriguing models for students. Even consider musical adaptations of content, the quadratic formula song. And lastly, vary the method in which you present your material. You shouldn't lecture every single time. Maybe play an engaging YouTube video as a change of pace. The next element to motivate your students is relevance. Students find learning relevant when they're able to build upon their prior skills and knowledge. Let your students know how this lesson relates to the prior lesson and how it relates to anything they have learned. Students will ask themselves, remember, we are teaching to children and adolescents. They live in a now and me world, as any parent knows. Yet, students still want to know if what they learn today will help them in the future. Math teachers constantly hear the question, when will I ever use this? To increase student motivation, provide choice in your class assignments.
One lesson, for example, can offer two different assignments, one a project presentation and the other a research paper, and then let the student make a choice. Continuing with the third element to increase motivation, C from marks, confidence. Students need to believe they can do the work. You can help them believe by first providing small but achievable goals for your students.
So if you want your students to be more confident, give them small pieces of achievable homework and so on, and start to build upon this.
Which will build confidence. You need to help your students believe that they can succeed and be successful. They often think, what's the point of me trying if I'm just going to fail anyway? So help them believe. Whenever there's an opportunity, give positive feedback to your students. Positive feedback can gradually help students build confidence. Ultimately, you want students to think that their success is of their own doing. This means avoiding simply giving your students the answers. Let them work it out for themselves. And the last element of motivation, the S from ARCS, is satisfaction. I think teachers sometimes forget that learning should be a rewarding process. Earning good grades in class is a legitimate achievement, something to be proud of. Also, give students the grades that they have earned. Don't patronize them by giving them an A when they didn't deserve it. Make sure an A is something special. Students lose faith in themselves and the school when they receive grades they didn't feel they really earned. And lastly,
It's not preferable to give the students praising all the time, because if you use bravo, excellent, good, well done all the time for all the students, it will lose its meaning. So when you want to give a praise with words like this, try to use it in its right place.
allow the learner to make use of their knowledge. It's best if you can create some opportunities for students to apply what they've learned for future lessons and situations outside of the classroom. So right now, I would like to say thank you for your time. Please subscribe to this channel and consider these ideas for student motivation. Also, be sure to like and share this video as well.
Right, let's move to our presentation again. Now we'll speak about some kind of games. It would be very enjoyable for your students and for you too. It's called tongue twister. In this tongue twister, you can listen to a short statement and try to say it again, but here you will listen to it in a slowly way and then a very quick way. Let's start by this sentence. Listen.
She sells seashells by the seashore. She sells seashells by the seashore.
So you can ask your students to listen to this short sentence and try to say it. I want you to say it by yourself and see how fast can you say it. You can use this site. It's Learn English Kids by bridgecouncil.org. Let's have a quick look over this site because it's very important for us and we can use it in a very attractive and motivating way. Let's see. Now this is our site. Let's see the components of this site. It's Learn English Kids. We have got this in the orange color, and we have got here the Learn English in the green color, Teach English in the blue, and Learn English Teens in the purple color. You can navigate through this 4 sites and find out the components you can use with your students. You will find that the 4 sites are concentrating on the 4 skills in teaching, which are listening, watching, reading and writing, speaking and spelling, grammar and vocabulary, giving you some
بقول لك ده باسعار خياليه.
print. If you please mute yourself,
50
Mr. Hisham.
اسكت بقى
Mr.
النت
Hisham.
الله اعلم.
Mr. Hisham.
ما هي اللي عايز المتر بقى
Mr. Hisham, mute yourself please.
مطر وابني بقى.
محمد أبو وهاب.
انت عايز كله بتاع كله بتعمله.
Now let's return back to this site. In the listening and watch, here is some songs. You can use these songs in teaching your students. And some short stories, some poems, some videos. Here is reading and writing. This is your turn. He gives the students a chance to use reading and writing by themselves. He gives them reading practice and writing practice. Speaking and spelling, he gives them some hints about the sounds in English. And the most interesting part is the tricky words. He gives you some words that's very difficult for the student to pronounce or gives some other meaning when I shift the stress from one place to another and so on. Here is another tab in which he gives you some information related to grammar practice, grammar videos, and grammar chants. There is some songs related to grammar. This is very difficult because I can find a lot of songs related to vocabulary, but the songs related to grammar is rare. You can find some songs related to the grammar here and you can use them. Here's word games, some games related to vocabulary and the grammar. Here is fun and games. Here is our tongue twister. Let's see. If we scroll down, we'll find that these tongue twisters are arranged alphabetically. So B for big, C for cup, E for elephant, and so on. Let's see one of these, for example. As we have before for she sells shells on the seashore. Here is another example. He gives you listen to the tongue twister and practice saying it. How fast can you say it? Here is a kind of picture. Now you can play it by pressing here.
A big black bug bit a big black dog on his big black nose. A big black bug bit a big black.
As we said, the sentence is said in a slowly way and then in a fast way, and you ask your student to say it as fast as they can. Now let's move to the part of print and make. Here is he gives you flashcards, crafts, worksheets, and coloring. Let's see the coloring. Here you have got a lot of pictures. You can color and learn new vocab related to all of this. For example, we'll start with this picture, for example, fruit and vegetables. Sorry again for bad internet connection. Let's wait till it's open. He will give you a picture on which he asks the student to color each new word in a certain color. Here the student is learning new vocab and at the same time having fun coloring this picture. You can download it, print it and distribute it between your students, or ask the student to log into the site or link you give them to color it online, and or to print it and color it and bring it back in the class and so on. Here is the color which Mr. Saber.
Hello.
Mute yourself, please, Mr. Saber.
Hello. Hello.
Mute yourself, please, Mr. Saber. Okay, thanks. Let's see. Alice print the fruit and vegetables picture. Read the sentences and color it. You can download your printable file here and ask your student to color it. Now let's return back to another part of our session today. We have finished the tongue twister already.
Hello, Mr. Abrahman. I
Hello,
think
Mr.
this is a
Sabri, if you
problem.
please mute yourself and ask others to mute themselves.
I have a problem in my mic. I can't.
Now let's move to Aesop fables. It's a kind of Kalila Udimna, but in English, here is about 4,000 tales about animals and some morals related to them. If you go to this site, you will find some of this, and you will find over here, if you write down Aesop fables for audiobook, you will find this fables recorded and be said. You can use them at your class. You can use the picture of the fable, the words on it, and play the record for your students. They can listen to a native speakers saying these fables, and you can make some kinds of audiobooks through this. Let's see the fables of Aesop and have a look over it. Let's see. Now here is read.gov/Aesop/ you can write down Aesop fables on the Google Chrome, and the first link will be this. Let's see a list of the fables. Here is, for example, the frog and the ox. Let's see it. An ox came down to a reedy pool to drink. As he splashed heavily into the water, he crashed along a young frog into the mud. You can use your tune to give your students some enjoyable or amusing listening to the fable or the story. The old frog soon missed the little one and asked his brothers and sisters what had become to him. A great big monster, said one of them, stepped on little brother with one of his huge feet. Big was he? Said the old frog, buffing herself up. Was he as big as this? Oh, much bigger, they cried. The frog puffed still more. He couldn't have been bigger than this, she said. But the little frogs all declared that the monster was much, much bigger, and that old frog kept buffing herself out more and more until all at once she perished. So, what is the moral of this tale or fable? The moral is don't attempt it, the impossible. So here is you give your students a kind of tale, story, reader, and you can ask them to extract the morals of this tale. This would be very great for your students as a new source they could use to learn more about the language. You can give them new vocab like buffing, crashed, and so on. Right, now let's move back to our session again. Here is the last part of our session. It's about our assignment. It's a reflection and action plan on what we have already learned. I'll upload it on our Google Classroom to be answered. This is the first part, and the second part is an action plan. I wish you all the best of luck, and I wish you learned something new today. Till we meet next time, goodbye and good luck. Thanks. Goodbye.
Thanks, Mr. Abdurrahman.
Thanks, Mr. You are welcome. See you next week, inshallah.